Stop hiding what it takes to be with you. What does this mean? This means you have certain requirements in order to be in a relationship with you. We all do. Everybody. In fact, the list for most of us is really quite long. We can start with you're breathing, or your heart is pumping, or you are mobile or able to communicate, the simple ones. But then it expands out into things like you're present in these ways, you're emotional nurturing in these ways, you're physically affectionate in these ways, you're not creating environments in which I get so triggered that I fall into overwhelm and I have a systemic collapse. At least you're not doing that too often, right? Two-way street. So what we're talking about here actually is boundaries. I made a promise at the end of the last video that my next video would be about boundaries, and so here we are. This is what we're talking about today. Boundaries. And why boundaries are so important in the context of an interpersonal relationship. Are boundaries important outside interpersonal relationships? But here's the issue. A lot of people hide their boundaries, if they even know what they are. So maybe we actually have three issues. We have, do you even know what your boundaries are? 2, do you have the courage to actually vocalize them, express them, and bring them into the relationship? And 3, are you actually expressing boundaries in a healthy way? Or are you doing this other thing that a lot of people think are boundaries, but it's really not? So we'll cover all these. So the first one, do you even know what your boundaries are? Unfortunately, I meet a lot of people that don't. And why is that? How do we get to a position where we don't even know what we will tolerate and not tolerate? And in my opinion, that usually comes down to something to do with values. Well, values and fears. Those two kind of like work off of each other a lot. Because if I fear something a lot, I will value the avoidance of that thing very highly. But if I eradicate the fear, then the thing that I'm valuing that avoids the fear, stays away from the scary stuff, that will decrease down my value hierarchy very quickly. So that's how values and fears kind of like bounce off each other. So what we're talking about here is someone that is trying to figure out what they would communicate as a boundary because they're basically in a relationship. Something about that relationship doesn't feel good frequently or consistently. And they're like, reading the internet and going to therapy and talking to friends and everything else. It's like, you need to establish some boundaries with your boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever. Like, yeah, okay. Everyone tells me that's my answer. So this is what I'm going to try to do because this feels terrible. I want it to be different. So I need to do a boundary. What the hell is a boundary? Okay. So then they will try to basically launch this kind of verbal ultimatum, which is not so bad. Boundaries are ultimatums, but it's usually more than that. It's usually some kind of requirement or demand for the other person to change their behavior. And actually, as we discuss this, we're really on the third one, which is like, can you even communicate boundaries in a healthy way? So maybe let's start there. What is a boundary? What is an ultimatum? What is a demand? What is a manipulation? Is there anything else? Selfless communication? I don't know. Let's start with the first one. What's a boundary? A boundary is a statement about an action that I will take in the future. You can think of it this way. A boundary is a promise that will trigger on a given situation, a given set of requirements or situation or stimulus or whatever. So, example, if we are in conversation in the future, we are in conversation and you begin yelling at me, I'm going to leave. I'm going to walk out. I'm not going to say sorry. I'm not going to try to calm you down. I'm not going to communicate my inner world. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. My promise to you is that in the future, if we're in a conversation, we're interacting in any way, and you begin yelling at me in an aggressive, berating manner, I'm going to exit the situation quickly without any explanation. I'm not even going to look back. That's my promise to you. In the future, in a given specific situation, I'm going to take this specific action. That's what a boundary is. At least it's the healthiest definition of boundary I've ever found. This is what it's not. You can't yell at me anymore, or you need to stop yelling at me, or when we talk, you can't raise your voice. How's that one? Like when we're having an argument, you can't raise your voice. That's my boundary. No, it's not. That is a demand. That is a requirement, or I don't know. I can try and figure out different ways to say it, but it's really just a demand. I'm making a demand that in this specific situation, your behavior act exactly like this, or exactly not like that, right? This doesn't work. This is not in the realm of healthy boundaries or healthy communicating, because what this is doing is this is saying, I don't want that to happen, and I'm going to put the onus, the requirement for making the situation better on the other person. They have all the power. You literally take your agency and power in the situation and you put it on the other person's shoulders. And then you just make demands and say, you're going to do the thing that I want you to do. And if you don't do the thing I want you to do, then you're a bad person and I'm going to be angry at you. And then I'm fully justified to get activated and angry and shout and scream and all that kind of stuff. This is how many people do relating. This is how many couples operate, is that they make the demand on the other and then they think they've communicated, they think they've established a boundary, and then the other person just simply doesn't follow through on the requirement. They don't agree to the demand. Of course they don't agree to the demand. Their nervous system is freaking out and doing all the various things it does to try to find safety, survival, and, get rid of its internal shame and whatever else is going on there. Their cognitive executive function is impaired in these moments when you're having a fight. That executive function is not there to follow through on that demand. So you give away your power, you give away your agency, and then they don't follow through on it. And then you feel betrayed, abandoned, disrespected, right? The list goes on. Not a good strategy. I mean, if that strategy worked, people would be teaching it. And people would be following that teaching and they would be implementing it in their relationship, and we'd see those relationships improve and people would be happier and children, thrive in these environments where people are communicating that way. That's not what we see. We see the opposite of that. People that choose to communicate in this way or do conflict resolution, it's not even resolution, conflict enflammement in this way, has all the markers of a relationship that's in decline and negative impact on the children around it, right? So don't do that. Good boundaries or healthy boundaries, do it this other way. This other way is I am speaking about the agency and power that I have. I retain my agency and power, and I'm just letting you know. I communicate to you what the thing is that will make my promise activate, right? We could call it a trigger. It's not an emotional trigger, but it's like an event trigger. So that's what I'm communicating. I'm saying in this particular situation, do you understand what that situation is? Do you understand how often it comes up? Do you understand why I am even behaving this way, right? You can ask all those questions, but they don't need to answer any of them, right? Again, we are maintaining agency. So I'm letting you know what the trigger is that will trigger the promise. I'm letting you know what the promise is. I'm letting you know what the consequences of the promise activating will be, right? In the future, if we are in a conversation and you begin yelling at me in a hostile or belittling way, I'm just going to get up and walk away. That's it. Now, optionally, we can ask things like, do you understand Do you understand what I'm talking about? Do you understand what the trigger is? Do you understand that, like, I will follow through on this and it's going to be uncomfortable? Okay, so now we have a situation where I just established a trigger for my life and my future. And then I'm interacting with someone across the table, my partner. My partner said, "Don't you dare." Like if we're having a discussion and you get up and you walk out on me, that's the biggest disrespect. I will never tolerate that, blah, blah, blah. And if you do that, then I'm gonna, whatever, I will storm out. I will leave. I will end this relationship. I'll break up with you. Well, do you hear what just happened? They said, in the future, in this particular situation, if you walk out, then I'm going to do these things, right? So they kind of just established their own boundary. Is that healthy? More or less, more than the alternative. But the other aspect of that scenario is that I just communicated my boundary in a healthy way, and my partner took huge offense to that, and it basically activated their defense system, which is probably just their shame, and all sorts of other stuff began happening, and the whole situation is degrading. Well, now we're getting to the point, which is this kind of this like middle one. It's like all the people that are scared to communicate a boundary. Like, I'm not going to communicate that. My partner will get angry. I'm not going to communicate that because if I do that, if I really do the thing that I really want to do in the situations that are intolerable for me or crossing my lines or in the land of non-negotiables, then if I follow through on that, then we're going to break up. My partner might leave me. They might get angry. They might attack. They might assault. They might verbally berate me. They might disrespect me. They might go on a bender. They might. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. The title of the video is Stop Hiding What's Required to Be in a Relationship with You. And this is a call to question. Maybe a call to action, but it's mostly a call to question. If you're in a relationship with someone, are you clear and open about what it is needed to be in relationship with you in a way that you thrive, that you achieve happiness most of the time, that you have joyful, fun, excited moments most of the time, that you are in a space where you feel safe most of the time? Do you feel respected and nurtured and cherished and prioritized and wanted and chosen most of the time? You have things that you have requirements. You have experiences that are needed in order to have those experiences most of the time. So the next question is, do you communicate those things? And so a lot of people will say, well, I need this and I need to be texted back frequently, and I need this kind of attention, and I need this kind of dedication to me, and I need you to stop talking to other people, and I need your focus on me, and whatever. There's a whole bunch of things that will be on their list that it's like, I need my partner to do this in order for me to feel good. It's like, okay, I get that that's the way it seems. I sure lived like that for a long time. I get it. But we can't do that because we can't control that person. And if we put in demands for them to act a particular way, what happens? They shrink. They pull away. They feel judged. They feel controlled. They feel manipulated. They feel heavy. And as that happens, they will retreat from the situation. Some will kind of remain close, but just start walking on eggshells. And then they're going to have their own growing resentment kind of under the surface. Point is, that strategy leads to ruin. The strategy of trying to control your partner because you need things to be a specific way doesn't work. It just doesn't. Like, we can look at data sets from like large, expansive numbers of relationships. These are relationships between two consenting adults. And those relationships reliably, consistently descend into toxicity, resentment, and an eventual permanent rupture when a controlling dynamic is present. It's like the only time that a controlling dynamic even has a chance of surviving is basically when the other person is so desperate, so needy for attention, companionship, partnership, whatever, because of their own attachment wounds. But they're so craven to be in relationship that they'll basically tolerate anything. They will self-abandon to the end of time. And then guess what? Those blow up too, because eventually their resentment grows and grows and grows and grows. You might get a couple of years out of it, but most of the time it'll blow up pretty soon. That's been my observation. Who would you be if all the fear, anxiety, and chattering thoughts finally went quiet?
Many people in daily lives, they are just holding themselves back.
And I looked up yoga retreats and all these different things, but nothing quite resonated.
Honestly, I didn't think about it. Just like, I'm going.
Felt like every emotions from every person was valid here.
Allow yourself to be fully yourself.
I think it was a contained environment where you could freely express yourself.
That's a big lesson. It's okay to get close to people. It's okay to share. It's okay to be vulnerable.
And no one will shame whatever feeling you feel. Nobody makes it bad or wrong or even uncomfortable.
They added more than it would have been one-on-one.
Don't be afraid. Don't worry about the money. It's totally worth it.
I did not have the capability of stating my needs and boundaries and possibly disappointing somebody. But in this moment, I could.
So controlling dynamics simply don't work. All the numbers say they don't work. All the reported cases of people who have been in those situations say they don't work, right? You get a short-term boost of certainty at the expense of long-term trust, long-term connection, long-term vulnerability, long-term attraction, long-term sex drive, everything. Basically, everything you want in a relationship is brought down or diminished or poisoned by dynamics that are primarily controlling. So that's not the way to establish a boundary. Boundaries cannot be controlling. So people say, well, what do I do? Like, if my partner does that or doesn't do this, then my system gets all spinning up and I have all this anxiety and then I have this pain. And their actions cause pain for me. I've said that. I've said that in my past. And now I see how flawed that perspective is. And not just flawed, but unhelpful. It's a dead-end street. If that's the dynamic we're in, well, I mean, you've got the option to leave, right? Just like walk. If you're in a situation where you're with a partner and you're saying the words to a therapist, coach, or friend that says what they're doing causes me pain, then what are you doing there? Why are you staying? That's a question that's worth asking. And I ask it to virtually everybody because most people are not actually doing the due diligence to figure out why they're in the relationship they're in. Okay, what do we do with that? I feel like we're on a tangent here, but it's a useful tangent. So if I'm in a situation where I'm saying my partner causes me pain and I don't want to walk, then what? Then what? What are your options? Get them to change? Good luck with that. Like, you can express your pain. You can express the dynamic that you're in. You can express the amount of resentment or sadness or grief or whatever, you can share your emotional experience with your partner. And if they hear that and they say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. And then they begin restructuring their life and their reaction mechanisms. And maybe they go to therapy or talk to someone or whatever. The thing is, all you do is share your experience, and then they take on the job, the task of trying to rework their relational dynamics, their behavior dynamics, their emotional responses, et cetera, et cetera. They take that on themselves by their choice. Well, they're changing, but you didn't make them change. All you did was share your experience. Their desire for your happiness, pleasure, connection, etc., is actually the thing that created the change, not your request. Okay? But on the flip side, if we say, hey, partner, all this stuff, when you don't text me back, or you ignore me when you're playing video games, or you doom scroll all day long, or whatever, and I get all this anxiety, I get all this pain, all my wounds get activated, and I'm just this like jittery, anxious, sad mess. And then you say that to partner, and partner's like, whoa, why are we like, this is just a lot. Can't you just chill out? Like, it's not that big a deal. I'm just playing a video game. Or whatever, right? Whatever the thing is. But basically, what partner is telling you is saying your pain that you're expressing or your reaction, they're basically expressing a lack of patience, a heaviness, a resentment, or a burden. Well, that's not going to go very well at all, right? That's a case where we would return to one of the phrases I say often, which is, you just learned everything you need to know about the future of that relationship. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so boundaries. Let's return to this after our wild tangent. What is a boundary? Boundary is a simple statement. There is a promise of the action that I will take that is entirely under my authority, self-authority, my autonomy, my power in the future when a very specific situation happens. And that's all it is. I'm just making a statement about the thing that I'm going to do. And why would I do this? Well, I make this statement so that my partner knows basically where the edges of might be my comfort zone, but it's just like my tolerance in this moment. Like what I will tolerate, what I won't tolerate, the direction I want to take myself, the places where I want to protect or defend myself, the things that I just do not want in my life, and maybe the things I do want in my life, right? A boundary could also be in the positive direction. It's like if that favorite band plays in this town, I'm going to spend a whole month's worth of salary to buy a ticket, period. Like that is also a boundary. It is a statement about a thing I will do in the future, a promise of the action I will take in the future in that certain situation. That's kind of a positive or neutral boundary, right? Now, why is this so important? This is so important because we can't read minds. Your partner can't read your mind. You can't read your partner's mind. And so they are operating in the context of this relationship based upon an internal model that is it's like a simulation. It's like a matrix style simulation. It is an approximation of who they think you are, how you would respond to certain situations, what you like, what you don't like, where you'll get super triggered, where you're going to get super elated. Like they're going to have this ongoing model in their mind about who you are and how you react. But then we have all these people that are like, I'm afraid to actually establish any kind of hard line boundaries about what I will tolerate and not tolerate because I'm so terrified that doing so will weaken our connection, will make them judge me, will make them run away from me. That my demands are too much. Ooh, where'd you learn that one? Thanks, Mom. Right? That we get this fear of actually expressing ourselves in a true and authentic way. We have a terror inside that the connection that I have that feels good, or at least I believe it feels good, or I project it into feeling good, or I hope it will feel good in the future, right? Whatever that is, this connection that I have is going to be threatened if I have any kind of hard lines. If I have any kind of strong reaction that prioritizes myself first over anybody else. One of the ways I see this come up super often is someone that basically does not have the capability of prioritizing themselves because they've been brainwashed, conditioned by their early caregivers to always prioritize the people around them. Now, people say, well, be nice to the kids on the playground, be nice to your classmates, don't gossip, don't start fights, et cetera, et cetera. That's actually not what we're talking about. We're talking about the parent in the dynamic with the child and a constant stream of messaging, modeling, and reinforcement behavior to that child that says whatever it is that you think or feel or want or crave is not important, because what I want, feel, need, and crave is most important. You need to do the things that I want. You need to perform the way I want. You need to dress the way I want. You need to talk the way I want. You need to be like the sports I want. You need to whatever, right? This would be called a controlling parent. Funny enough, controlling dynamics usually don't work out so well. I just did a video about that. So these people don't have the ability to even express themselves. They don't have the ability to have an opinion. Like their inner defense mechanism says, if I get to the point where I actually want anything, the only thing that's going to happen is disappointment, berating, dismissal, possibly attack. So just don't do it. Don't even have an opinion. Just be agreeable. So their inner defense mechanism is so well developed, and it's firing on all cylinders so thoroughly that their conscious mind doesn't even get a message that they have an opinion about something. And this gets into one of these three. It's like, do you even know what your boundaries are? And a lot of people don't. And so if you don't know what your boundaries are, you can't express yourself. If you can't express yourself, you can't help your partner even understand who you are. Your partner will have a model in their mind of who they think you are, usually based upon their own projections and desires about what they're looking for or what they think is ideal in partnership, whatever. So they're going to have all these projections in their mind about who they think you are and how they think you're going to behave and what they want you to be. What does that person do? They comply. They say, this is what my partner wants, and so I need to put on this mask in order to get love, attention, validation, approval, in order to be told that I'm actually worthy, in order for someone to actually love me. I need to put on this mask. I need to do the thing that other person wants me to do, which is exactly the same dynamic of the child putting on the mask in order to do the things that the controlling parent wants them to do. That seems to be how it works. So we take this dynamic and we move through time. And what do we see? We see that person that's wearing the mask gets tired because they're performing all the time. They're prioritizing other. They're taking care of that person and this kid and that kid and whatever, right? They're in the constant state of self-abandoning prioritization of others. And then they're nervous, which adds stress to the system, right? And then their system basically takes in that stress over and over and over again. The system says, I want a break. I need to express myself. Sometimes I need to just get away from this. So maybe they isolate, maybe they numb out. It's frequently where alcohol will show up or any other kind of conscious altering substance. Anything, any kind of major numbing agent. And then underneath is resentment. Underneath is this sad, borderline angry, usually angry, but it's still hiding. Sad, angry person filled with resentment and asking questions about, like, is this all there is? I don't feel good here. This relationship is not what I wanted it to be. What am I doing with my life? I have sacrificed things I wanted to do, opinions I wanted to have, ways I wanted to live in this world, directions I wanted to take. I've sacrificed all those things for this relationship, and it's still failing. It's like we barely even relate anymore. We're like roommates living in the same house, or we haven't had sex in years, or blah, 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 right? Like this whole like list of things. I've heard all these things from people telling me directly to my face that this is the dynamic that they're in, and this is the consequences of this long period of time where they were prioritizing everybody else but themselves. Why? Because they didn't know how. They didn't even know how to prioritize self. Now, some people, the people who talk smack or haters or whatever are going to say, all this prioritizing self, you just want to build a whole army of narcissists. No, that's not it at all. And, if you want to think that, good luck. Get on with yourself. No, what we're talking about here is maintaining what's needed, like maintaining an organic system. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about recognizing that we are inside an organic system that is a combination of a nervous system, physiology, and heart, mind, emotion, whatever, all the various pieces, however you want to chop that up into different cognitive units, because it's just part of a bigger organic system. But anyway, we're going to look at the individual as an organic system. You are an organic system. Organic systems have certain needs. Like try planting a flower and then not giving it water. You're like, oh, that didn't turn out so well. Or like plant the flower and then just, put Listerine on it every day. And you're just like, oh, that didn't turn out so well. Right? Like if you have an organic system, it has certain requirements in order to thrive, has certain requirements in order to grow, has certain requirements in order to adapt to its environment. If you add a constant stream of stress to that organic system, it will do its best to adapt to that stressful situation, and it will sacrifice other things in order to achieve some kind of homeostasis or balance in relationship to the stress of its environment. That's what organic systems do. And so one as complex as us, humans, this is what we're doing, right? We're trying to find some way to survive in an environment where these particular stresses keep influencing my nervous system and my mind. And it will do that. And we'll do it every moment of every day. So getting back to the original thesis of the talk, which is stop hiding the things that are needed in order to be in relationship with you, that kind of covers all this stuff. It means understanding your own thoughts, opinions, preferences. If you can't do that, there's work to be done. And that work to be done needs to be done maybe in isolation, maybe with assistance. Because there's a very good chance that your survival strategies that have been adopted and reinforced by your nervous system for a long period of time are firing on all cylinders and preventing you from even accessing those preferences. From those preferences, you need to extract non-negotiables, things that you simply will not tolerate. And from there, you have to figure out how to structure the communication of it in such a way that you're not asking the other person to change, because we don't want to give our power away. We don't want to take this critical moment, this critical thing that is of such high importance to my nervous system, and put it into the hands of a child that is activating, which is your partner when you're having a fight, right? We don't want to do that. We want to keep it in a place where we have some kind of agency over our own lives. Now, hopefully, once we've communicated the boundary, this is green flag territory, we communicate the boundary, the partner hears it and says, okay, I understand. And that makes sense to me. And thank you for communicating that, because now I understand where the edges of your personality are. Their internal model of who you are and how you operate just got updated. And then when they are bumbling around through life and doing various things, they're going to refer to this model inside their brain. And we can like, I can't do that. Or I don't want to. It's not even can, can't, or should. It's that I don't want to, because I care about this person. I care about their well-being. And they got very vulnerable in communicating to me that this is an edge of their tolerance. And so I really want to respect that. I want to honor it. And my honoring of it is an act of love that they will eventually see and witness. And they can see that I care about them so much. I am consenting and stepping into a role of helping protect their safety, helping maintain their safety. Boy, that builds a lot of trust. That builds a lot of felt safety. That builds a lot of positive attachment dynamics. It literally does all the things we would want for a good, healthy relationship, which is the opposite of the controlling dynamic, right? This is green flag territory. This is the partner that is actually suited and wants to be involved in a relationship with you. Red flag territory is the opposite of that. Red flag territory is you communicate their boundary and they dismiss it. They say you're too much. They're like, whatever. Or they, hell no, you're not allowed to do that. Whatever. They don't respect your autonomy. They actively aggress against it. That relationship is not going anywhere. At least not anywhere that you want it to go. So boundaries serve this other function also. Boundaries create a dynamic where you get to express your true reality of who you are and where your limits are. And you get to allow this lovely person across the table from you, you get to allow them to respond. You get to allow them to prioritize it, to respect it, to embrace it as an act of love and cherishing and care and all that other stuff. But if they don't, well, now you know. So boundaries also act as a vetting agent. You establish your boundary in the future. In this particular situation, I'm going to take that action. Do you understand? They go, yeah, that's a great boundary. I totally support that. I want to help you with that. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'll make mistakes. Sometimes I will forget. But know that in my heart, my desire is to help you and help you feel safe in this relationship. Sweet, green flags. Right? Again, if the person doesn't do that, they have any kind of negative reaction to a boundary about the action you're going to take in order for self-protection and safety, and they dismiss that or belittle it in any way, red flags. Take that information and integrate it however you want to integrate it, really. Hopefully you would see that and say, oh yeah, this is not working. This is not the right person for me. What do I think is going to happen? So boundaries are great. They serve an amazingly positive function in the context of healthy relationships. They actually help the relationship be more healthy over time. They help both people understand one another more deeply over time. They allow for greater and greater expressions of love, devotion, attention, and protection over time. But people will still not do it because they're afraid. They're afraid of the consequences. They're afraid that if I express an opinion, something bad is going to happen. If I stand my ground, something terrible is going to happen. If I prioritize myself, something terrible is going to happen. These are all lessons that nervous system learned from long ago and have not yet been disproven. I guess that's a separate topic, but it fits in here really well because we need to disprove those lessons. We need to teach that nervous system that you're allowed to be selfish sometimes, that you're allowed to prioritize self, you're allowed to express your wants, needs, limits, non-negotiables, everything else. In fact, we want to celebrate it every time it does, because that person, the person who learns how to do that, especially when they didn't know how in the past, but they learn how to do that, that is that's like positive vector. That's like their attachment system, their nervous system regulation, their well-being, their emotional reality on this life will be moving in a positive direction. And this is one of the ways, is learning how to understand your inside first, then communicate it in a non-verbal, non-aggressive way, and then follow through on that. That actually reminds me of another point that's important about boundaries. I totally forgot, which is boundaries. The last step of a boundary is to follow through. If you make the promise, you follow through on the promise. Because if you don't, you're teaching your partner and your own self, you're the little child that lives inside, you're teaching them both that your boundaries don't mean anything. It's just theater. You're just making noise, making claims, trying to do something that is trying to convince everyone around you that you're going to make some choice and you're going to follow through. And then you don't. Everyone learns it. They say, okay, well, that promise basically means nothing. It's just a bunch of noise. And that's not a situation you want to be in. We want to be in a situation where you state a boundary. Everybody knows that is a rock solid commitment. It is basically unshakable. There is such a thing as porous boundaries or flexible boundaries. A lot of people are fans of that. I've heard that in therapy spaces a lot. There is a time and a place, right? But maybe that's a subject for a different talk. Because flexible boundaries are pretty advanced, and it has to do with, it's basically, think of it this way, flexible boundaries are only an option once the groundwork of the relationship is already green flag territory. If you're in red flag territory, or you're in the, I don't even know what my own preferences are yet, this is not a time for flexible boundaries. Like, practice the hard, sharp boundaries first, and then we can integrate the flexible boundaries later. Because trying to go all the way to the advanced stage right off the bat that's a heavy lift. It's very difficult. Wouldn't recommend. I hope that's useful. I hope this talk has popped a couple of ideas into your head and helped people expand and kind of integrate how they're operating in relationship and self. Be real. Learn how to be real. Learn how to communicate deeply with a great deal of authenticity and honesty. Learn how to prioritize self when you need to. Learn how to express your lived reality in ways that are nonviolent, that basically don't put the other person on defense. That seems to be very helpful to get us where we want to go. There's a lot of things here, a lot of things in this talk that are worth pursuing. And as much as I can guarantee anything, which is not much, I'm just some random guy on the internet, right? But as much as I can guarantee something, I will guarantee, or at least strongly encourage, that these tools matter and these tools bring long-lasting benefit to virtually every relationship in your life over time, including the relationship with yourself. So can't recommend them highly enough. And I hope at least a few people are inspired by this. So thank you all for listening. Peace.